Like specifically, this was brought up by Buttery Cheeks with a very generous $5 super chat. Brought up, did you hear about Sony moving away from putting their single player games on PC? It was hinted at by Jason Schreier and Digital Foundry. And we looked it up, and then there's this little snippet from their show Triple Click, where it's discussing what's next for Xbox and Phil Spencer retiring and all that. But this original bit clips some of the discourse. Jason, of course, a very well-known leaker, works at Bloomberg, knows his stuff. I mean, I think for them, their strategy is like live service games are coming to PC, but I think the sense I'm getting is that they're backing away from putting their exclusive console stuff, like traditional single-player stuff, on PC. Kirk said, really? You think they could close that door and start to say never mind to Ghost of Tsushima 3 is only going to be on PlayStation? And Jason said, I do. And I mean, even if they don't, we are seeing Wolverine coming in September 15th, and that's not coming to PC. It's coming to PlayStation 5 only. You don't think it'll come to PC? Jason said, I wouldn't be surprised if it never came to PC. But even if it does, you have a strong idea of what that is and that you need a PlayStation to play it at least for the indefinite future. Kirk said, right, I'm just observing a strategic similarity in the way that PlayStation is now releasing The Last of Us Part 2. These big PlayStation exclusives are being put on PC, and in seeing the grumbling amongst PlayStation fans saying, Jason said, yeah, I think that's going to stop is what I'm saying. Right, exactly. So that would be interesting if it did stop. They'd be moving towards that console strategy direction. Yeah, and I don't know. I'm not sure how super successful those PC releases were. Kirk says, it seems like trying to put something back in a bottle or turn back the clock. That doesn't seem like it would work to me. Oh, taking it back and stopping that? Well, it's like they never did it day and day. So the PC releases were always kind of late to the party. And I don't think it was that successful in the first place. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's going to be that big of a blow. Kirk, you mean sales-wise successful? Or he said, yeah, like commercially successful. Yeah, I mean, that's the big question. But yeah, to me, it's very possible that they put that genie back in the bottle because it seemed like they were always kind of dipping their toe in the water, like half entering the pool in the first place with staggered releases. And then John from Digital Foundry said something similar.
John, do you think there is actually, I mean, if they're going to fully embrace PC, they've got to fully embrace PC, and that means a lot of things that I don't think they want to do. For example, day and date releases.
Yep. I have an inkling that they're pulling away from PC. We'll watch this space, but I can't help, based on some of the decisions and the way things have been going lately, I get the feeling that under the current leadership that PC has become less important. One might argue that the Jim Ryan era, the one positive thing to come out of it is this shift to PC, but I'm not confident that they have like a huge vision for PC going forward. Not to say that we won't still see some PC games happening, but I think it's not going to become more PC focused. I think if anything, it's going to become less. And we'll see. I mean, maybe that's not the case at all, and this is the reason I don't think that they would ever consider, like, saying like a PC launcher, like going bigger on PC at the expense of console. I think console is where they want to be. I think, I mean, they've continued to succeed in that area despite themselves, I would argue, with some of the decisions this generation. But also, man, yeah, there's just, it's hard to say. I mean, we really can't predict the future on this stuff, obviously. It's just, I feel like Nintendo and Sony are really just going to stick to their guns for now. And I think Microsoft's Xbox situation, just the nature of Xbox and the fact that they're so big on PC anyway, it makes more sense there. You know, if you own Windows, why not focus on it? Make it better though too, but still, you know what I mean? Whereas for Sony, I mean, I would like to think they're smart enough now to know that, yeah, doing a launcher like this would be like the worst possible idea ever. They would not, it would kill whatever PC focus they have.
Interesting. And then, of course, Jason Schreier followed that up saying, I mean, it's not speculation, but sometimes topics come up on the show before I'm quite ready to publish a story on them. So I don't know. That's interesting. Hiroki Totoki, the CEO. Let's see. Toki then addressed the topic of first-party games and made it clear that he feels releasing them multi-platform, which he seemed to clarify meaning as PC, continues to be the way forward. Quote, in the past, we wanted to popularize consoles, and first-party titles' main purpose was to make the console popular. This is true, but there's a synergy to it. So if you have strong first-party content, not only on our console, but also other platforms like computers, first-party games can be grown with multi-platform, and that can help operating profit to improve. So that's another one we want to proactively work on. I do think that this is from like a year and a half ago, if I recall. That's from a while back. And their suggestion is that this is a changing strategy. Here's what I think. Okay. Right now, PlayStation dominates the console space because Xbox has largely stopped like directly competing. If a game launches on Xbox, it means, okay, well, it's going to launch on PlayStation 5 as well, either very shortly after, like with Forza, or day and date, like with Fable. So they're not really competing as a separate entity. So if you're on PlayStation, you can just play the games there anyways. So PlayStation is definitely king of that hill. On PC, they are not the kings of that hill. Sony's, or Steam rather, is the king of that hill. And I don't think there is a way that they will ever be able to like truly get out from under that. Like, I think their ideal situation is that they have their own launcher. And by having their own launcher, they now don't have to spend 30% giving that to Steam for every game that they put out, right? Like, if they release something, they don't have to stress about it, you know? But, it's just very, very interesting that, you know, they've played with it. I think it makes sense with live service games where the number of players is like the operative thing. But in this case, it seems like it's also very much that they're trying to figure out for the next generation, which angle do they want to take? Do they want to take the go everywhere approach, or do they want to double down on what they're good at and what there's no real competition with, which is console, where they keep 100% of the revenue that comes through for their first party stuff, and they get a 30% cut of everything else. And, you know, you pair that with Xbox's approach, which is to go more PC with the next gen. So they could truly differentiate themselves if they were to go back and focus just on the console side of things. Zubitech just tagged me in this. Sneakers so said, we're talking about games in the future. I understand if folks are disappointed with the output on this front, but there are loads of changes happening now that we'll see increasingly over the next 3 to 4 years that are more in line with what folks preferred from them. That isn't to say live service titles are done and dusted by the way. Nate Drake also backed it up and said Sony is shifting their PC strategy. Absolutely. And that was in response to this. Yeah, them removing the revenue beyond console from the strategically emphasized indicators in God of War Sons of Sparta, not releasing on other platforms, despite it clearly being so-called experimental game like Lego Horizon, and credible insiders like Nate Drake stating that it was considered for a multi-platform release initially, could indicate a strategy shift when it comes to PC ports, at least for single-player games. A large player base is too important for live service titles. Yeah, I think what's happening now as we rev up to the next gen, as with every generation, there's sort of a beat that happens where all of the executives get together and they figure out what's the next angle. Like, what is the vision for next gen? What's our strategy broadly going to be? With the Xbox One, famously, it was all TV. Bit of an oopsie on that one. Dude, the hair is crazy today. With the Xbox One, it was all about TV. We're going to build a cable box that also plays games. That was their approach. With the Kinect, of course. Because you all have Wiis, don't you? Don't you want a Wii where you don't hold the controller and it's worse in every way? That was kind of their approach. And dude, for real, what is happening? I swear this isn't a wig. But anyway, like that was their big push on that side of things. For Sony, they had an easy mandate when it came to the PS4. All they had to do was not be Xbox. Like that's literally all they had to do. Just whatever they're doing, don't do it. Do the opposites. Like Xbox is trying to go and do always online. Don't do that. Xbox wants to make it so you can't resell your games. Easy. Don't do that. Xbox is priced super high. Well, don't do that. Price it lower. You know, like really, really straight. Luke forgot to iron his wig. Exactly. But I used the wrong one. Yeah, I used the badger instead of the human hair. It's possible that right now Sony is going through those motions and is evaluating what's their angle for next gen. And they have that option of continuing the Jim Ryan route, pushing live service at the cost of everything else, or they can go back to what was kind of tried and true and hopefully learn from some of those mistakes. Because again, the faulty premise of everything that Jim Ryan did was, I remember talking about this in like 2021. He said, we spend this much on single player games through the PS4 era every year. We're going to spend that much for the PS5 generation. So if we just say that this is like, PS4 versus PS5, he's like, we're going to do that, but then we're also going to spend double that also on live service. So you're going to get twice the games, just some of them will be live service and some of them will be single player. But you'll get the same number of single player games as you did before. It's just you'll also now get live service spin-offs. That was wrong. That was very wrong. It is demonstrable that Sony's output has plummeted, because in reality, this isn't what happened. This is what happened. It cannibalized a lot of the time, the resources of those studios. And so it's not this dramatic. I mean, it's maybe like a 20% dip or 30% dip, but it did eat into the single player like development time, resources. And we've seen that with like Naughty Dog spending 4 years or 4 to 5 years on a live service game that ends up being canceled. It's like, what are we doing? Or all of the other things like Blue Point, wasting the entire generation on a God of War live service game that goes nowhere and then is canceled and they're shut down. Like, so many examples of this throughout their portfolio of things that could have happened in the single player space that didn't happen because of the live service push instead, right? Setting aside even other companies where the same thing happened, where they thought the same thing, where they thought like Rocksteady, we can just use them to make a live service game. It's not that simple. So it could be that they're just reevaluating it and going, you know what? The PS4 gen worked fantastically well. Yes, we didn't have the unicorn that made $5 billion like a Fortnite, but we were making billions from our single player games that were really focused and well managed, well designed, and properly scoped. And maybe we just like figure that out again and get back on the horse there. I think that would be a much better strategy. Now, seeing them double down on console is interesting, especially when it comes to like expanding exclusives, because I think also if Sony's looking at it and they're like, our next decade is hopefully defined by the PlayStation 6. What do we know is going on right now? A lot of people are moving to PC because you can play all of the games eventually anyways when everything's coming there regardless. And like PC gaming ends up being cheaper in the long run. I know that might be shocking to people, but especially with like Steam sales, the ability to refund things, it ends up being cheaper than console gaming, where things go on sale much, like they go on sale regularly, but not anywhere near as deeply as you get on Steam and other PC platforms, like when you factor in GOG, Green Man Gaming, and those places. So it's possible that Sony is just like, let's just double down. And if we start making things more exclusive again, that justifies people investing in our ecosystem once again. And that can help us compete against PC more broadly when people are making their next gen purchases. Because I think that's what's going to happen is circa 2028-ish is when people are going to have that moment of, which way do I go? Do I buy an Xbox? Do I buy a PC? Or do I buy a PlayStation 6? And they want to give you every reason to buy a PlayStation 6. But right now, it's like you could do that, or you could just get a PC, play all of those games eventually anyways, and everything else, not pay for online, and you have access to Steam, refunds and all that, like lots of reasons to question the purchase, you know. Kiwi Talks mentioned this, with Sony pulling back on exclusives for PC, it's good to understand why Sean Layden pushed for their games to be put on PC in the first place. My theory on why they are doing this, though, is because, number one, there are games on PC, their games on PC weren't really moving the needle and selling that much, nor were they creating FOMO for people to buy a PlayStation or play the sequels. This is also kind of the idea, was that it was either leaving money on the table, that there were people on PC who wanted to play God of War, but couldn't because they weren't going to buy a PlayStation. So by putting the game over there, you get their money, and they were never going to come over to PlayStation. So you benefit from that. And then the other side of that is maybe there are people who, when they try The Last of Us Part 1, go, oh my God, this is awesome. I'm going to go buy a PlayStation 5 so I can play The Last of Us Part 2 because it hasn't come to PC yet. Hypothetically, in this scenario, that might not have happened that much. I think most PC players just stayed on PC. You know. 2, they don't want Xbox's new hardware to be able to play their games through the loophole of Steam, which would be funny if that's what it is, if they're that like petty. Because if the new Xbox is basically just a PC running Windows 11 gaming mode or whatever, it would technically allow you to play like God of War Ragnarok on Steam through the Xbox. I can't imagine they actually care about that, but maybe they do. Maybe it's like a point of pride that they don't want that logo to ever pop up on an Xbox hardware. I don't know. Sony is very petty. That's like next level though, dude. That's crazy if that's what they actually think. Number 3, Nintendo is closing the gap with Switch 2 and seems to have somewhat alleviated their biggest weakness, third-party support, which makes them having exclusives even more important. I think the Switch 2 as a threat is much more pressing, personally, because the Switch 2, like I've seen the clips of some of these games of people playing like Resident Evil Requiem on Switch 2, and it's like outrageously impressive that this is running on a Switch. Like, are you kidding me? What? Like the Switch 2 is able to push that? Are you kidding me? And that's been the age-old problem for Nintendo, is that their stuff is so weak, it doesn't get anywhere close. This shot is on a Switch 2. What? Like, are you kidding me? It's crazy. It's crazy. And I think that changes the math, because if people have always been, again, we got to get out of our bubble of like hardcore gamers. You got to remember that the average person, the millions and millions of units sold, that's from the more casual side, right? That's from the people that are going into Best Buy or Walmart right before Christmas, and it's a dad panicking because he forgot to get his kids a present. And he's like, I got to figure out what the family gift is going to be. And he's looking at the shelf of gaming consoles and stuff, and he sees the Switch 2 next to the PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 5 Pro or PlayStation 6 or whatever it's going to be. And he's got to pick one. The biggest albatross around the Switch's neck has always been the performance is going to be way less than what you get on the other platforms, which is still technically true. It's a small handheld device, but bro, if it's able to push this out, that equation changes. Same thing like other games like AC Shadows got a major overhaul as well. Like, let me show you this update from like 8 days ago where like they're showing the difference in reflections. This was the previous version. This is what they got it working at through the latest updates and stuff. Like, we're talking about current gen massive open world games that are very tough to run, just period. And now they're able to run these games in like pretty impressive levels. Like, is it the ideal way to play? No, that's always going to be PC or like, you know, the more expensive hardware. But this is still wildly impressive for a Nintendo console. That's outrageous. That's outrageous. And I think for the average gamer, they see this and then they're like, I can also get Mario Kart. I can also get whatever the next Zelda is. I can also get Mario, whatever the next one is. Donkey Kong Bonanza. That becomes a much more compelling argument all of a sudden, you know? That becomes much more compelling. So the Switch 2 factor, I think, makes a lot more sense to me than like fears of playing their games through Steam. And then number 4, releasing elsewhere disincentivizes people from buying a PlayStation, so that's less sales within their ecosystem, which is true. It's less sales within their ecosystem. Yes, you do get a sale elsewhere, but the math of a 30% cut from Steam is nasty work. It's nasty work. And you got to also remember that for franchises like Marvel stuff, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Sony is losing like 20 to 30% probably on every copy sold straight to Marvel for the rights. And then you're talking about Steam taking another 30%. It starts to make sense why these games struggle to be profitable, you know? And so, but you know, if it launches on their platform, they keep all of it. They keep all of it. This is the clip he linked with Sean Layden.
Did that?
Again, the former guy, head honcho at PlayStation, led the PS4 through its golden age. This is what Sean had to say.
Kind of play into the strategy of moving to PC, like to create FOMO. So, because it was your idea, right? You're the one that pushed for PlayStation.
A lot of people
games.
had the idea, but yes, it's on my watch where I decided we're going to do this thing.
Right. Was there an initial pushback?
Oh yeah, a lot of pushback. I mean, there was a time back in PlayStation 1 where we had a game called Jet Moto and a game called Warhawk. And the studios wanted to publish them on PC. And at the time, Kutaragi-san rightly felt that Sony Computer Entertainment would not be in the PC publishing business. So I actually had to spin that off into another group in order to publish into the PC market, which wasn't really big back then in the late 90s. So it didn't really have a lot of impact, and most people don't remember that happened. But laterally, the reason why I thought we should go onto PC, and again, after a year, once a game's in the market,
Initial release.
because once a game's in the market for a year, you can look at the decay rate.
Yeah.
It's not going to cannibalize sales. It's already sold to your console market that wants it. PC was not to make money, not to really generate FOMO so much as it was, I just want to introduce to people who are not in the PlayStation camp, these are the things we're doing. Check it out. It could be cool. My view was that the PC market wasn't going to come to PlayStation on its own. And for us to tell them the story of what our games are, we have to meet them where they are. And if you're on your PC, I will meet you where you are. Not on day one, on day 366. But it was more of a chance just to get IP and the brand out there to an audience which normally we don't have a chance to talk to.
That makes sense. But I imagine when GTA 6 releases, there will be PC players that do have FOMO and will probably end up buying a PS5 just to play it. So,
yes, there are some titles that can actually change weather patterns.
Yes.
And Grand Theft Auto is a franchise that can change weather patterns. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good interview. You should go watch the whole thing. Sub to Kiwi Talks. He does good work. But yeah, I think it's GTA 6 always is just special. But I think that all of this also, you got to remember that we're not talking about instantaneous timelines. We're talking about long term. Okay, so when we're talking about like the effects of bringing your games to PC, that will have an impact, like splash effect, where people are like, oh, so they're changing their strategy. What does that mean? But it's more about what that does to the ecosystem 5 years down the line. Once people have gotten used to the idea that I could buy a PS6 or I could just buy a PC and all those games are going to come anyways. Because I think for a lot of average gamers, that is a very compelling offer. I get it. There's people entrenched in the console, and for them, the idea of leaving that console is anathema. It's a scary foreign thought. And for some people, that's just not something they'll entertain. But I think there's a lot of people, especially younger gamers out there, who would consider that. And think about the next generation, literally. Think about the modern audience, right? The kids that are growing up, like my youngest siblings, who are growing up, growing out of Roblox, thank God, and growing out of Fortnite. And they're looking, where's my next gaming home? Where do I go? They don't have an established library. They don't have library on PlayStation or Xbox or anything. They don't have any of that. And so they're starting from scratch. And for a lot of those people, I think the options, a PC versus a console becomes very interesting and more intriguing. Historically, the price difference has been what's saved the console market. That doesn't seem to be happening anymore. Now, you could also say that of the PC market. The PC market, it all depends on like how frugal you're willing to get. If you're willing to buy like a gaming laptop instead of a big gaming desktop, that can save you money because just the scale that they're working on makes it more doable. But yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting to see how this plays out, because I do think for a lot of people, and I know anecdotally multiple people in my family and friend group who have said that, they were trying to figure out what their next gaming purchase is going to be, and they're choosing to get like a gaming laptop or something because they're like, yeah, all that stuff I'm going to get access to anyways, so why not? So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how this plays out. But if multiple people with like actual strong track records are saying that they've either heard rumblings or that it makes sense to them that they could be seriously reevaluating their PC strategy, that could actually mean that they are. I will say I thought them not bringing Sons of Sparta to PC was weird. I just assumed they'd be bringing it to PC because that's what they've been doing. And it was not. It was exclusive to PS5, which is different, which suggests that maybe something also changed, but we'll see. Not a single exclusive game is going to make me buy a console because there is no sale like a Steam sale. And that's a big factor. Buying games for 20 to 30 bucks or euros is cheap. it's hard to go back. Once you're used to that, baby, oh man, you get spoiled on Steam. I remember we talked about it on stream one day where I was like, yeah, Steam sales are just different, man. And dude, there's one PlayStation fanboy that was so triggered. He sent like 5 screenshots from his console being like, look at all these sales. All of this is on sale right now. And it's all like the standard PlayStation sale stuff where it's like 10% off of these things. That's cool. And it's like, bro, until you have tasted the sweet forbidden nectar of the gods that is the Steam summer sale or winter sale or fall sale, dude, it is the sweetest sweet treat. It'll change you. It'll change you. Open your heart to Gabe. Open your heart to Gabe. He'll bring you in. Looks kind of like Santa Claus, so it's fine. You know, it's something else, man. It's just hard to explain to people if they've not seen it. And with regional prices and the refunds, dude, the refunds are a massive deal. I've speculated, and I don't have any evidence of it. It's just a gut feeling that I do think for some of these publishers, there's a consideration of like, should we go to PC on like Steam? Oh, the Steam refunds. Yeah, I've speculated for a long time that there are publishers who choose not to go to Steam because they're afraid people will refund their games en masse. And Steam, allegedly, my understanding is they keep their cut. So if you buy a game for $10, you refund it. Steam keeps their cut, their 30% cut or whatever, but the person still needs their full $10 back. So the $3 is just lost from the publisher, from the studio. They just eat that. That's my understanding. Because Steam is like, we did our part of the job. We sold the game. We managed the refund for you. So we have to pay our expenses. So we did what we're supposed to do. You were supposed to make a game people don't return, which is fair. But that's a big deal, I think, for consumers. And I know for me, there's moments where I'm like, do I want to try this? I don't know. The reviews are kind of so-and-so, but I can always refund it within 2 hours. Okay, I'll go for it, you know? He took my thing.